Heather Forbes McKeon, the producer of Time Capsules, a series of radio plays produced here at RPPFM. And the radio plays involved a number of local actors. And today in the studio I have local actor Steve Bastoni. Now Steve's a renowned and award-winning Australian actor, and he's acted on many Australian and US television and films. And he's been described as one of Australia's most versatile and respected actors, having a string of impressive credits, including the Emmy Award-winning On the Beach, Matrix Reloaded, and The Water Diviner, to name a few. He's also a stage actor. Steve's performed in a range of plays from Shakespeare to Tennessee Williams, in modern plays in both indie and mainstream theatre. Steve's a screenwriter, film producer and director of short films, but many of our local viewers and listeners would know you as the man behind the Mornington Peninsula Film Festival, which is held each summer on the foreshore at Rosebud. Welcome to the studio, Steve, and thank you for coming in to have the chat.
Thanks for asking me along, Heather.
Now, reading your biography, I learned that you were born in Rome and Italy, and your father was a 1952 Helsinki Olympian.
Yeah.
And so what led the son of an Olympian sprint canoer to become a successful actor?
Well, my mother came out here. My parents separated in 72, and my family, my mother and my two sisters, immigrated here in 73 because my mother was Australian and had met my father on a trip in Italy when she was younger and stayed and married and raised a family. Things didn't work out, so I came out with my mother and two sisters in 73, and Mum was always interested in theatre. She was always a bit artsy. In fact, a little bit of fun fact, history for you, for Peninsula historians. She was the first arts teacher at Red Hill Consolidated School.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. And
that's one of our oldest schools,
yeah,
of course.
That's right. And was very good friends with the McCulloch family. And
right.
Sue has, in fact, had some photos of my mum as a young kid that she showed me recently, which was lovely. And so I've always had a connection to the arts through Mum's interest. And when she got involved with the Italian Melbourne University Theatre Group, doing amateur Italian plays by the late, great Nino Randazzo, there was an opportunity for a young Italian actor, to recite an Italian monologue in Venetian dialect. And so I put my hand up for that when I was 8 and started in theatre back then, and never thought anything further of it, and certainly didn't participate in any other stuff until much later when I was 16. And I was attending a school in Brunswick called Lionel Hall, which is an alternative school in Blythe Street, Brunswick, just off Blythe Street. And I got asked to audition for a short film called Skipping Class, in which I'd been researching for some time, unbeknowingly, skipping class a lot. And so when I auditioned for that, they gave me the role, and at the premiere screening of that, an agent came along and said, "Do you want representation?" And I said, "Well, I don't know what that is, but it sounds good, and I'll have a couple of them."
Oh, fantastic.
And so they represented me, and I started working when I was 16 professionally in television. I sort of made it up as I went along and learned very much on the job. So.
Right, okay. Now, being so incredibly busy, and we're going to be discussing all the things that you do, why did you accept the offer to act for free here at RPPFM in Time Capsules radio plays?
Well, I mean, I love what RPP represents. I love community radio, I love community theatre, I love any kind of creative pursuit that can be accessible to the local community. I think culturally it's a really important thing to tell stories and to express ourselves artistically, whether that be through theatre, film, television, writing, poetry, music. I just think that that's the fabric and heartbeat of our society and our culture. And so I really related to the idea of being involved in a radio play. I like the fact that it was historically illuminating about Peninsula's little tidbits of history and little golden nuggets that you wouldn't hear anywhere else. You know, and living on the peninsula, it kind of gives you a sense of time and place, and it connects you to it. You know, it's a really connecting thing to know that the history of a place, particularly that you live in, and it's magical. You know, there's a lot of stories that have been told before us, and it would be a shame to lose them. So to get the opportunity to tell them on radio, which I think is a great medium for storytelling, because it leaves so much to the imagination.
Yes.
So when I got asked, invited graciously by your good self, I took the opportunity.
Well, thank you. You acted in 2 of the plays, and the first Colony as Commander Governor Collins, and in Arthur Set Crash as Major Brown.
Mm-hmm.
How did you enjoy acting in the plays?
I loved it. I mean, it was a pretty quick experience. Like, we didn't obviously spend a lot of time rehearsing. I think at the time I was frantically busy, and you were too. But it was fascinating just looking at the characters and knowing that, you know, that happened here, you know, and just incredible stories. And, you know, getting the opportunity to play, you know, a oldie English captain and put on a silly voice was a lot of fun. You know, that's why I became an actor, basically. You know, my wife says, you know, you play dress-ups for a living. and that's pretty much true.
So
you know,
true.
Like, I do enjoy it.
Yeah. Okay, so that might have covered my next question. What is it about acting in radio plays that interests you? Have you done other radio plays?
I did one here, The War of the Worlds, which was my only experience with radio plays, although I do narrate quite a bit of stuff on radio and do some voiceover work.
Yes, you do.
So I'm not, you know, unfamiliar with the radio world, but I like the fact that it's, you know, the imagination can do far more than create much more elaborate pictures and vivid pictures than cinema. You know, like when you read a book, for instance, you know, your mental imagery is so strong and so wild and so free, and it's original. It's yours. You create it with the text on the page. And when we see a film, we're told what to see. That information's, you know, delivered very instantly and viscerally. And in radio, we get the chance to be, you know, imaginatively unfettered.
So what are the challenges for you being a voice actor? Because I often hear you on the radio.
Yeah.
So what are the challenges you're faced with?
Well, it's a really different skill set to normal acting. You know, radio, it's all about the voice and the control of the voice and the emotion connected with the voice. And, you know, I don't necessarily think voiceover actors make great actors because it's such a different skill. And you can, you know, to be a good voice actor, you have to be very, very aware of your voice and know exactly what it's doing. And that's not a prerequisite for a good actor. Like, a good actor should have control of their voice, yeah, sure, and should. But if you become hyper aware of your voice as an actor, it can, I think, take you out of the character and disengage you from the other person because you're concentrating so much on your voice. And in a radio booth, when it's just you and it's script and someone giving you direction through the booth, it is just you in the voice, you know, and. You know, so it's important to bear in mind that you're talking to people. You're not just in a vacuum, just doing this crazy thing. So it's a real art form, voiceover work, and one that I'm still sort of mastering. But it's very challenging, and yeah, it requires a lot of energy. You'd think that it would be quite easy to go into a booth and just say a few words and then you're done. But to actually imbue it with energy, and if you know, particularly if you're selling a product and the product might be, you know, it might be a watering system or something, and it's not terribly exciting, you've got to make it sound good, and that can be challenging.
Well, you do that so well.
Oh,
and I remember what happened when you recorded your roles. Suddenly you were given a film role or something, you had to fly into state.
Yeah.
And we decided, we decided, okay, I checked with Steve, you can come in and do them in isolation.
Yeah, that's right.
And Steve's done a fantastic post-production job, so that nobody would know, outside of us knowing, that you actually were acting without any other actors in the room, whereas all of the other players we had
bouncing off
actors.
each other.
Yeah. So you didn't have that energy coming from the other actors. You had to provide that yourself, and I thought you did an excellent job.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That's a learned thing, I suppose, from working, you know, for years on film sets. Sometimes, you know, you do have to give a performance to a little dot on the wall, you know.
Right.
And so you can't always be reliant on the other actor, but it is a big advantage, I think, to have someone else to bounce off. It just makes it more organic.
Yeah. Well, you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
So please tell us about yourself as a person involved in all things film, television, theatre and acting. What have been some of your most recent projects?
Well, recently I've been reconnecting with theatre a lot, which has been great. I've loved it. I've made a few film and TV projects as well along the way recently. Did a big Chinese movie last year called The Whistleblower, which is coming out sometime this year, I think June next year, right? I was in Bad Mothers, which was on Channel 9, which is a commercial television show, which was fun. But this year has mainly been focused on theatre. Earlier this year in May, I was in The View from a Bridge with the MTC, which was an amazing production and such a privilege to be part of. It was incredible. Arthur Miller's classic play, and I played the title role of Eddie, which was it's one of the great modern roles, and a massive mountain and a huge challenge, and one that I'm glad I did, but I probably will never do again.
Well, I didn't get to see it, unfortunately, Steve, but I did read some reviews, and I know that you received many accolades.
Yeah, we got great. Thank you. Yeah, we did. I got amazing. I couldn't have written them better myself. But look, I try not to. For me, really, it's about the process of working, and you do your best every job you do, and sometimes people resonate with it, and other times they don't. So that's beyond my control. All I can control is go and do your best, and so. But it was a great challenge working with great people. So yeah, it really resonated well with the audiences and critics alike. And recently, when I say recently, last month I finished a play at Red Stitch Actors Theatre called Ulster American. Which was just a joy. It was the
Tennessee Williams?
No. He's a writer, a writer called David Ireland.
Right.
And he's a new writer who just recently won the Edinburgh Award for Best New Theatre and for his play Ulster American. Amazing play, incredible play. So timely and funny and savage and. Brilliantly written. The comedy in it was just spot on, and it was a real joy to be involved in that. That also got great reviews, which was lucky.
Yes.
Because it could have gone either way. In fact, one of my lines in that play was, the only thing I ever want to read from a theatre critic is a suicide note. They're animals, Lee. They're animals. And we should do with them what we do with animals. Keep them as pets.
How acerbic.
He says, we should do with them what we do with animals: kill them and eat them, and the good ones keep as pets. So it was very funny, like really quite savage humour, but and commented on the Me Too and sexual politics and power and geopolitical tension in Northern Ireland, and incredibly relevant material that's happening now. And so I think in 2 years it'll probably date, but at the moment it's stuff that needs to be said.
Fantastic.
Great play.
And what are you working on currently, or what's in the pipeline for you for the next year or few months?
On Wednesday I go up to Broken Hill for the Perfect Light Film Festival, which is another one that we run, Megan and I. And then we're already in preparation for the Peninsula one in February. So yeah, we're really knuckling down with that stuff. But I'm about to go off on the 9th of November up to Queensland, because I'm doing a feature film called Streamline, which is about a young swimmer and his strained relationship with his father, and the impact that has on him and his athletic career. He's like an Ian Thorpe sort of prodigy kid who comes from a very troubled home life, and the impact it has on him, and the importance, I guess, on finding a balance between a healthy mental state as well as the physical. I think it's a good illustration of how you need to have the mind, body, and soul balanced. You can't just have one that's
So which role are you playing?
I'm playing a member of, I think, like the Australian Institute of Sport. He's like a talent scout, who's looking at the kid, but looking at him, not only his physical achievements, but his mental aptitude and his ability to cope with pressure, etc.
Oh, wow. So talking about the Peninsula Film Festival, Steve, you started that in 2011, is that right? It's hugely popular, a wonderful family event, and one of the biggest, if not the biggest, film festivals in Victoria. So what inspired you to start Film Festival Australia, which includes the Peninsula Film Festival?
Well, initially we were sitting in the cafe. I was sitting there with a friend of mine, and I was running an acting school at the time. And one of the problems with acting school is you can teach someone how to act and work on film and stuff, but how do they get experience on set? It's a big jump from going from an acting school to a feature film set.
Yeah.
And often many people don't get that opportunity. But one of the ways to do that is through short film. And so I was sitting in that cafe at the bazaar and looking out at the statue of Frank Whitaker, and I thought, we should do a short film festival. We should do it right in this theatre. And I'm going to go there. And I went out the back and spoke to the guys who had the second-hand furniture store at the time. And I said, could we, next month, it was literally like that, next month, can we just clear this out for a day and put seating in and have a cinema there? And they said, oh yeah. Well, I said, we'll give you, some money or whatever. And we'll help you move the stuff and they said yes, and so we just put it on with no permits, nothing, like I didn't even know you needed a permit. I just thought, like we had all the councillors turn up and they're going, who talks about permits? And I was like, what permits?
Oh, I love it.
So it was kind of, but it was such a success and everybody got behind it and the local community really responded to it. So we said, well, we'll have to do this again, maybe outdoors next year. And the next year we picked November. We didn't obviously research the weather that well. It was freezing. It was a beautiful day when we started, but by the end of the night it was so cold on the village green. And we decided that we were going, so that was 2012, and then we decided that after that November that it had to be a summer event. So obviously we missed 2013. So, and 2014 we were back in February.
Well, each time I've gone, it's such a fantastic evening, and you've been so fortunate with the weather.
We've been
each
so
year.
blessed, yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. We've researched it very well too. That is the weekend. It's got the least rainfall of any weekend.
Well done.
Yeah, so
That's how you did that.
but we're always praying for good weather on the lead up to it. Yeah.
So, what is it that motivates you, Steve Bastoni?
Motivates me.
All of those things,
Wow.
those topics.
Well, I guess, look, I spent a couple of decades sort of partying and wasting my life and, not really being very active and very creative. I just turn up for jobs and walk through them and, I didn't really have much of a purpose. And, now I've had my own children and I've put down my roots in the local community here. I think it's important to contribute something. I used to be very much a taker, and as I've gotten older I realised that you experience a lot more joy in giving than you do in taking, and I want my kids to learn that, and I want them to grow up in a community that feels that and has that at the heart of its core. So whatever, I enjoy living in a community that's vibrant and, being exposed. I thought to art at a young age was a real gift that my mother gave me. And I'd love to be able to give that to not only my kids but other kids in the area, and hopefully, make the world a little bit better than when I came in. Hopefully,
Yeah.
I think, by our virtue, we're here, whether we like it or not. We have to do something on this planet, and we might as well try and make a positive influence. I think, as opposed to a negative one. And I think everything I say and do, everything we say and do, makes the world a better or a shittier place.
It's a wonderful philosophy.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
That brings me to talk about you being an ambassador for Are You OK Day,
Yeah.
which is, or Are You OK,
Yeah.
the Australian Suicide Prevention Awareness Campaign.
Yeah.
And you're clearly a community-minded person. What does being an ambassador for Are You OK Day mean to you?
Well, it's a personal thing. I lost my best friend in my 20s to suicide. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And I've lost a couple of people since then to suicide. And I think most people who we talk to these days have had someone in their circle that has been impacted by suicide. And I know that the statistics around it are horrific in Australia in particular. We have 7, particularly with men, there's 7 a day that take their own life. And I just think it's something that we can all help to address. I think the main problem is connection. People feel disconnected and they feel like their emotions, they should be embarrassed about the thoughts or feelings that they have, and they either deal with that through drugs and alcohol or act out through domestic violence or some way to try and make themselves feel better, or they take their own life. And I don't think that I think that's crazy. I think we need to be able to talk about stuff. And I really like the idea of Are You OK, reaching out to people who you think are struggling or reaching out yourself when you're struggling, and having the difficult conversations and speaking the unspeakable. Speaking the unspeakable thoughts that we think we're going to be shamed for, or we're going to be thrown out of the tribe for, or we're never going to be spoken to or loved, or because we think or feel a certain way. And I just don't think that's true. And I think that we need to destigmatise mental health more and talk about the difficult stuff, and I think that that's a healthy thing.
And it may be because men are not talking about these things enough.
Exactly.
Perhaps.
We've become emotionally retarded in the sense that we're not encouraged. Men are not encouraged to show their feelings or have any feelings, let alone cry. And I think that, tears are the rivers of the soul, and, we need to cry sometimes. We need to grieve. We're not rocks, we're not, we don't stand out in the rain and rust. We're people and we're human beings. And I really like the message of Are You OK? That is about, it's all about, connection and reaching out and asking the question, are you OK? And following up with people and staying connected.
Yeah, it's certainly got people talking about are you okay, being able to ask people are you okay.
That's
I know that I have.
Yeah, it's a good conversation.
So it's really good to have that dialogue.
Yeah, and it can save a lot.
The phrase, just having that simple phrase, it's foremost in our minds, and it's an easy one to actually connect with and pull out and think, is that person actually okay or aren't they?
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, a lot of the questions people ask me afterwards, they go, what do you do when someone says, no, I'm not okay? And then the action, then we encourage action. We say, well, you should see someone professional and go and see someone and talk about it.
Yeah.
And, first of all, the 4 steps of Are You OK? Is ask the question, are you okay? Second one is just listen without judgment. Sometimes people just need to offload. You don't need to form a solution. You don't need to offer advice. Just listen without judgment. And the third step is encourage action. If they're having problems, you encourage them to see a professional or get help through the doctor. And the 4th step is just, to check in with them and follow up.
Right.
2 weeks later, and you go in and say, hey, how did you go with that problem? Are you sorted? Are you feeling better? Just, letting people know that you're there and you care, and, I think it makes
a problem shared. Can be a problem halved.
That's an old cliche, but it's so true.
I think there's real truth in that.
Yeah.
So, as a professional actor, Steve, why is it you choose to live outside of Melbourne on the beautiful Mornington Peninsula?
Because who wouldn't?
Shh, let's not tell anybody.
That's right, that's terrible here. The beaches are polluted.
It is horrible, isn't it?
No, it's terrible, I grew up, as a kid, coming down here every holidays, surfing at Sereno Back Beach.
Yes. Right.
And I fell in love with it. And I forgot all about it, And when I had my own family, I thought, where would I want them to live? I want them to have what I had. And this place for me really represents that innocence of childhood and that connection with nature and growing up and healthy surfing and endless summers and very positive memories for me. So when I raised my own family, I thought, I can do this. I spend half my life unemployed as an actor. We do. You spend a lot of time.
It's important to be unemployed or you don't get the work.
Well, that's right. Exactly. Okay. That confused me for a second, but and if you're going to be unemployed, why not be unemployed by the beach and in another, in an
be around for your kids.
And be around
those.
a place that they can access nature and have a bit of space to run around.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming in today, Steve. It's been a great chat.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And I look forward to seeing you at the Peninsula Film Festival on
February the 2nd.
February the 2nd. Well, thank you. Thanks again. I'm Heather Forbes McKeon, and this has been an added extra to Time Capsules radio plays, being aired during October and November this year, 2019. And Time Capsules will soon be made available as a podcast on the website. That's right, Steve. I hope you can kick back and listen in. Thank you for watching and thank you for listening. Bye for now.
And that's a take.
Thank you. Thank you.